Hey everybody, today is June 6th, so we'll be looking at June 5th MTG stocks. We can see here there are some price increases as usual. That always happens in Magic. And there's not anything too big. There are some 100% increases, which is a decent amount. It seems kind of normal. And today we'll be doing a little bit of a shorter episode, so I'm only going to go over the top one here, which is Daxos the Returned. So let's go ahead and look at this card. So Daxos the Return is a one colorless white-black 2/2 legendary creature zombie soldier. And I did this again, but I'm going to go ahead and say that the price went from 260 to 665. Anyways, the abilities this creature has is whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you get an experience counter. It has another ability where you can pay colorless, a white and a black, and you create a white and black spirit enchantment creature token. It has this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of experience counters you have. So, from what I've seen, there isn't like a huge reason why this card spiked. The best guesses I have is it's a little bit of an older card. It hasn't really been reprinted ever. The last time it's reprinted, or the last time it's printed, and the only time it's printed was in Commander 2015. The core set 2021 spoilers, some of them haven't been revealed, and as far as I can tell, nothing from there really affected this card. So I guess it's just kind of like one of those things where, since it's older, it's probably just being bought up a little bit because why not? That's my best guess. Why not? I guess the other thing to kind of talk about here is the experience counters. So back in 2015, I think is when experience counters were first introduced, and the idea is that whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you get an experience counter. So that isn't the creature that gets the experience counter; that's you as the player. So what's kind of cool about this is that if your commander dies, this is probably what you'd use it for is your commander. But if your commander dies, then you still have the experience counters. So the next time that you bring out your commander, so let's say like the first time you put out Daxos, you got 2 experience counters. You're still going to have those when Daxos returns. Put on the name. I'm a genius. But anyways, so you'll still have those experience counters. So the next time you cast an enchantment spell, you'll have 3 experience counters. That's kind of how it works. And like this one isn't like a huge, powerful one, I'd say. I mean, if you have a way to keep putting enchantments out, and then maybe for 3 mana you can create a 10/10, and that's possible. But it seems like it'd take a little bit unless you have like a infinite combo engine, which is very possible, I guess. But I assume that's why it's not like super expensive, because I know some of the experience counter commanders can be pretty expensive. The kind of cool cards that I found that kind of go with this is the first one is called Recurring Nightmare, which is a 2 colorless black enchantment. You can sacrifice a creature, and then you can return it to its owner's hand. And then it allows you to return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and you can only activate this ability anytime you can cast a sorcery. So what's cool about this is that this allows you to sacrifice a creature, and if you're looking, like if you have enough mana, then this works out. And I literally just noticed that this is banned in Commander. So don't do that in Commander. But in other formats, yeah, that's what I meant to say, is in other formats, which you couldn't even use Daxos except for in Legacy or Vintage. So yeah, you're fine. You could do this. That's fine. Don't worry about it. But the idea would be is that, sacrifice off a creature, put it back to your hand, put it back out. Daxos gets a experience counter, and you kind of keep doing that. But now that I know it's banned in Commander, let's go to the other card that is luckily my backup card, is Glistening Oil, which is not banned in Commander. This is a black enchantment aura. It has enchanted creature has infect, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on enchanted creature. When Glistening Oil is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So what's really cool about this is that there's a couple of things. One, if your opponent has a very problematic creature, and you're okay with spending basically a whole round to get rid of it, then you could put Glistening Oil on it, wait till your next upkeep, and then you get a -1/-1 counter on that creature, And this probably only be good if they have like 1 toughness. I probably wouldn't recommend doing it otherwise unless it's that problematic. But this allows you to potentially kill a creature that way. And then when glistening oil is put into the graveyard, it comes back to your hand. The other thing you could do is put it on any of your creatures, of course, and so giving your creatures infect is pretty decent. But with the main thing here is that it keeps coming back to your hand. So with Daxos, every time that you cast Glistening Oil, you get another experience counter. I think it's like a really cool interaction that you could do. Like if you had a bunch of tokens out, you put Glistening Oil on it, token dies, and then it goes back to your hand at the beginning of your next turn, and then you just keep playing it. So that's a way to kind of like get an engine kind of going. It's a slow engine, but is a reoccurring engine. Unless you can sacrifice off those creatures every turn, and then you can do it that way. And of course, the other really cool thing is that since Daxos makes big, powerful creatures for 3 mana, you actually can just put Glistening Oil on those. So, if you're making like an 8/8 creature, put Glistening Oil on it, now you have an 8/8 creature with Infect. That's really spooky. Now, of course, I could just say probably be easier if you had like a 10/10 creature, and then you could kill somebody immediately. So, I mean, like that seems like a really good benefit, and I don't know if Glistening Oil is put into a lot of Daxos tech. I did not look that up, but it seems like a really cool card and a really good engine for Daxos. So, that's going to be our price increase card, our MTG stocks card for the night. Let's go ahead and go to our Commander of the Night. Our Commander of the Night is from the new 2021 set, and that is Gadrak the Crown-Scourge. I want to go over this card because I thought this was kind of interesting. I feel like red has like some artifact stuff in it, but I feel like this could potentially be like a really good red artifact commander. There may be better ones, but I thought it kind of interesting regardless. So, Gadrak the Crown-Scourge is a 2 colorless red legendary creature dragon. It has flying and it's a 5/4. He cannot attack. She cannot attack? This card cannot attack. How about that? Unless you control 4 or more artifacts. So it kind of has a decent stipulation. But we have to keep in mind here that so it says that you can't attack, but you can still block. So having a 3 mana 5/4 flying blocker still isn't that bad, especially depending on if you're going against just decks that have a lot of flying in them. That would depend on your meta. I guess the most important ability here, though, probably is at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-creature token that died this turn. So the bad thing here is that it is non-creature. I guess they can't really like say non or token creatures because I guess it'd be too good. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if non-token is completely required on that because it's only at the beginning of your end step, so you couldn't really infinite combo that. I mean, you get a lot of value, mind you, but I don't think you can infinite combo that easily or at all. But so the idea is that you could make this a self-sacrificing deck, or kind of like the other idea I had for this, and this is kind of our synergy card for this week. We'd use something like Pyrohemia. Pyrohemia is a 2 colorless red enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if no creatures are on the battlefield, you sacrifice Pyrohemia. And then the other ability is you can pay a red. Could you imagine that has no other ability? Just that. That'd be awful. Anyways, you can pay a red. Pyrohemia deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. So what's really good about Pyrohemia is that you can basically keep clearing out the board if you need to. And with Gadrak, since that card has 4 toughness, as long as you never put 3 or more on Pyrohemia, then you're making it to where you can kill off a bunch of your opponent's creatures and then get some potential benefit off of that using Godrick. I think that it still could be a little bit hard, and it may be better if you have more of a kind of a reanimator deck, which I feel like would be pretty hard in red, but it may be possible. But I think going the route of being a little bit more control-y in general, in the sense of like destroying off your opponent's creatures, could also be very beneficial. But you still have to keep in mind that it's only for non-token creatures. So, just keep that in mind while you're doing this. But let's say that, a lot of your opponents do have like a creature meta of some sort, or it's really good if they have like a sacrifice deck and they keep sacrificing creatures, and or reanimation deck, both, whatever you want to call it, aristocrat, I guess. And they keep putting like actual cards in their graveyard and bringing them back. Assuming that, then you'll get a lot of mana because of Gadrak's ability. And then kind of our like cards that kind of help us out here. The first one I want to talk about is Sigil of Distinction. Sigil of Distinction is a X cost artifact equipment. Enters battlefield with X charge counters on it. So if you pay 5 mana into it, you get 5 charge counters. And then it says equip creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Sigil of Distinction. And then its equip cost, though, is remove a charge counter from Sigil of Distinction. So, it's one of those things where if you have a lot of mana, Sigil of Distinction can be really good. And since Gadrak is only a 3-cost 5/4 flyer, if you can get Sigil of Distinction to a decent amount, then it turns pretty spooky to have like maybe a 9 or 10 damage flyer in the air, especially as a commander. So that's that could be like one way to use the treasure tokens you get from Gadrak. The other thing is probably a little bit better of a win condition, I would say, at least maybe more universal, is Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Jaya's Immolating Inferno is a X-cost red legendary sorcery. So you can only cast this if you have a legendary creature or a planeswalker, so you'll probably have to have Godrick out. The other thing here is Jaya's Immolating Inferno deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. So this allows you to basically come in, and if you got like even just 5 tokens out, and you have like maybe you have like 7-8 mana at this point in time on the board, then that's becoming maybe 12, 13, or I guess 10-ish damage to each opponent, which maybe at that point in time can wipe them out, especially for playing like a Burny kind of deck or something like that. So I think it's pretty neat what you can do with that. And I'm actually going to jump back to Sigil of Distinction real quick, because the other cool thing with Sigil of Distinction is that it's still an artifact. So if you really just need to attack with Gadrak and you don't have an artifact except for Sigil of Distinction in your hand, you can actually just pay 0 and put it out. And it'll be completely worthless in every way, except for it'll allow Gadrak to attack. So that's kind of like the other reason I want to put Sigil in there, because it's a way for you to get a 0 mana artifact out if you really, really need it. So that'll be our commander stuff for the night. Let's go ahead and go into a random card. We're going to do a random card, unless it's a really bad random card, and then we may do another random card. Okay, I think I've had this one. Lord of Extinction. I had it before, I feel, but that's fine. I like this card anyways. Talk about it again. Lord of Extinction is a 3-colorless black-green star creature elemental. Lord of Extinction's power and toughness are equal to the number of cards in all graveyards. So, you want to use this in a dredge deck generally, or a graveyard deck in general, whatever. Or, I guess if you had access to blue or something and you can mill people out, that would be pretty useful as well. If you have 10 cards in your graveyard and each opponent has like 3 cards in their graveyard, Lord of Extinction is still around a 20/20, which is pretty spooky, just for 5 mana. But I think it would be pretty interesting to do something with that blue. So if you had a Sultai colors, and I can't think of a Sultai commander right now that would super help that. But let's say if you have blue in there, then you could do a card that does the mills. There is an enchantment that whenever you play a card, you mill 2 from each opponent's library. And okay, so the card I was talking about is Psychic Corrosion, which is a 2-colorless blue enchantment. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into the graveyard. So if you have some way to, you could probably do like a draw engine and have Lord of Extinction in your deck somewhere. I mean, I wouldn't specifically say to make a deck around Lord of Extinction. I'm just saying more if you do have a Sultai mill deck, then Lord of Extinction could be really good in there, just because, you know, with Psychic Corrosion, you know, if you've made someone, or made everybody mill, even, I guess, 6 to 8 cards by that point, put Lord of Extinction out, that's at least 24, and that could be like a good way to have an alternate win condition in your mill Sultai deck, or whatever 4-color, 5-color if you want. Anyways, I think we'll end off there tonight. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.